The numbers jumped out at me from the bank statement like accusatory fingers. $20,000 transferred to an account I didn't recognize. Then another 15,000 2 weeks later. My hands trembled as I scrolled through my parents' online banking history, each new discovery hitting harder than the last. I'm Hope, and I just found out my golden boy brother is bleeding our parents dry. Everything okay, sweetie? My mother's voice floated up from downstairs. The coffee's getting cold. Coming, I called back, my voice steadier than I felt. I minimized the browser window, muscle memory from years of hiding things from my family. Not my secrets this time, Lucas's. The Sunday morning ritual at my parents' house hadn't changed in 20 years. Coffee, pastries, and endless conversations about Lucas's latest ventures. His football glory days. His business ideas. His perfect life with his perfect wife and perfect kid. I descended the stairs, each step heavy with the weight of what I'd discovered. Mom stood at the kitchen counter, arranging Danish pastries on her grandmother's china plate. Dad sat at the table, hidden behind his newspaper. Lucas called earlier, Mom said, beaming. He's finalizing that big deal he was telling us about. Isn't it exciting? The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. What kind of deal? Oh, you know your brother. She waved her hand dismissively. Always thinking big. He just needed to move some money around temporarily. Your father and I are happy to help. Dad lowered his paper slightly. Karen, maybe we shouldn't. Tom, he's our son. Of course we help. Her tone carried that familiar edge, the one that shut down any questioning of Lucas's choices. I gripped my coffee mug tighter. How much did he need? Just a small loan. Mom's smile flickered. Nothing for you to worry about. $50,000 isn't small, Mom. The silence that followed was deafening. Dad's newspaper crinkled as it lowered completely. How do you know that amount? Mom's voice had gone sharp. Because I saw the transfers. I saw them because I was helping Dad set up automatic bill payments, remember? The ones Lucas was supposed to handle months ago. You had no right to look at our private banking information. Mom's face flushed red. Someone had to. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. He's taking advantage of you both, and you're letting him. Your brother is building something important, Mom snapped. Sometimes businesses need capital. His last 3 businesses failed, Mom. The gym, the protein shake company, the sports app. Where did all that investment money go? Dad cleared his throat. Hope, maybe this isn't the time. When is the time, Dad? When they're broke. When Lucas has drained their retirement fund. That's enough. Mom slammed her hand on the counter. I won't sit here and listen to you attack your brother out of jealousy. The word hit like a slap. Jealousy. Their eternal explanation for any criticism I ever had of Lucas. Fine. I pulled out my phone and pulled up the banking app. Let me show you exactly what your precious son has been doing with your money. Mom turned away. I don't need to see anything. I trust Lucas. That's the problem. I looked at Dad, pleading. You have to see this. Please. He met my eyes for a moment, then looked away. Your mother's right, Hope. Lucas wouldn't. Unbelievable. I grabbed my purse. You know what? Keep burying your heads in the sand. But don't come crying to me when you're working at Walmart in your 70s because your retirement fund mysteriously disappeared. I stormed out, slamming the door behind me. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, my knuckles white. My phone buzzed, a text from Lucas. Stay out of my business, little sister. You have no idea what you're getting into. I stared at the message, a cold smile spreading across my face. Oh, brother dear, you have no idea what I'm capable of. This isn't about jealousy anymore. This is about justice. And I'm just getting started. Nina's apartment always smelled like lavender and coffee, a combination that usually calmed my nerves. Not tonight. I paced her living room, clutching my phone with Lucas's threatening text still displayed. He's really done it this time, Nina said, curled up on her couch. Have you talked to Ella? Lucas's perfect wife? She probably helped him plan it. I stopped pacing, remembering something. Although what? Last month at Tommy's birthday party, she seemed off. Kept checking her phone. Barely touched her food. When Lucas started bragging about his new business venture, she practically flinched. Nina leaned forward. You think she knows? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Dad's name flashed on the screen. I answered on speaker. Hope, your mother and I discussed it, and we're having a family dinner tomorrow night. Lucas will be there. We need to clear the air. My stomach clenched. Clear the air? Or gang up on me? That's not fair. His voice carried that familiar note of defeat. We're trying to keep this family together. By letting Lucas steal from you? It's not stealing when we agreed to help him. Mom's voice cut in. She'd been listening the whole time. You're coming to dinner. 7 o'clock sharp. The line went dead. Nina raised an eyebrow. Perfect, I said. A plan forming. I'll bring proof. The next evening, I arrived at my parents' house armed with bank statements and screenshots. Lucas's car already occupied the driveway, his precious Mercedes that probably cost another chunk of our parents' savings. Inside, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Mom busied herself in the kitchen, Dad helped set the table, and Lucas sat in his usual spot, looking smug. Ella stood by the window, bouncing their son Tommy on her hip. Hope, Lucas said, his smile not reaching his eyes. Good to see you're still concerned about my finances. Someone has to be. I dropped my bag beside my chair. Since you're clearly not. Children, Mom warned from the kitchen. Not in front of Tommy. Ella suddenly spoke up. I should put him to bed upstairs. It's past his bedtime anyway. As she passed me, her eyes met mine for a split second. Something in her expression made me pause. Fear? So, Lucas said once Ella was gone. Let's hear it. What horrible accusations are you bringing to dinner? I pulled out the bank statements. These transfers, for starters. $50,000 in 2 weeks? That's just the beginning, isn't it? I told Mom and Dad about those transfers. He leaned back, relaxed. They're investments in my new tech startup. Everything's properly documented. Really? I slid another paper across the table. Because I called the bank. That account number you transferred to? It's a personal account in the Cayman Islands. The color drained from Lucas's face. Mom set down a casserole dish with enough force to rattle the plates. Hope, that's enough. How dare you investigate your brother like some kind of criminal? Because he is one. I stood up, hands shaking. He's not investing anything. He's stealing their retirement money and hiding it offshore. And I bet Ella has no idea. Leave my wife out of this, Lucas snarled, standing too. Why? Afraid she'll find out where the money's really going. A crash from upstairs made us all freeze. Ella appeared at the top of the stairs, white-faced. Tommy's fine, he just knocked over a lamp. But she held up her phone. Lucas, why is there an email about plane tickets to Buenos Aires? The silence that followed was deafening. Lucas's face transformed from anger to something I'd never seen before, pure panic. Ella, honey, I can explain. Explain what? I cut in. How you're planning to disappear with our parents' money. Dad finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. Lucas, tell me this isn't true. But Lucas was already backing toward the door, his mask completely shattered. You don't understand. None of you understand what it's like trying to live up to everyone's expectations. I just needed a fresh start. With stolen money? Ella's voice cracked. Were you going to tell me about Argentina, or just disappear with our son? Mom sank into a chair, her world visibly crumbling. And in that moment, watching my perfect brother's life implode, I felt no satisfaction, only a hollow ache for what our family had become. Lucas bolted for the door. But this time, running away wouldn't save him. I had more evidence, and now I had something even more valuable, Ella's attention. The real war was just beginning. Grandpa Henry's bookstore always smelled like old paper and pipe tobacco, even though he'd quit smoking years ago. I found him in his usual spot, perched on a wooden stool behind the counter, examining an ancient ledger through his reading glasses. I need your help, I said, dropping a thick manila folder on the counter. He looked up, eyes sharp despite his age. This about Lucas? You knew. I've watched that boy take advantage of this family for years. He closed his ledger. Your grandmother would have seen right through him. She always said Lucas had your Uncle Richard's eyes, Beautiful, but dangerous. I spread out the documents I'd gathered. Bank statements, failed business records, loan applications. A pattern emerged, each venture more desperate than the last. Look at this. I pointed to a document. He took out a second mortgage on his house without telling Ella. And here, he's been lying about his company's revenue to get more loans. Grandpa Henry studied the papers, his expression darkening. There's more, isn't there? I hired a private investigator. I pulled out another document. Lucas has gambling debts. Big ones. The kind that attract dangerous people. The bell above the door chimed. Ella walked in, Tommy balanced on her hip. Her eyes were red-rimmed. I thought I'd find you here, she said. Lucas came home last night. He's saying you fabricated everything. Did he explain the plane tickets? She shifted Tommy to her other hip. He says it was a business trip he was planning. That you're twisting everything because you're jealous. Jealous. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my ears. Show her, Grandpa. He handed Ella the mortgage document. Her hands trembled as she read it. This can't be right, she whispered. We agreed no major financial decisions without consulting each other. There's more. I hesitated, then pulled out the gambling records. He owes people money, Ella. Dangerous people. The color drained from her face. How much? Over 200,000. Tommy started fussing. Grandpa Henry quickly produced a cookie from behind the counter. He'd always kept treats for young visitors. I should have seen it, Ella said, watching Tommy nibble the cookie. The late-night phone calls. The way he'd jump whenever his phone buzzed. Last week, I found him in our home office at 3 a.m, shredding documents. The bell chimed again. My mother burst in, face flushed with anger. Hope, what have you done? She demanded. Lucas is talking about leaving town because of your accusations. He says you're trying to destroy him. Karen, Grandpa Henry's voice carried a warning. Before you defend your son, you might want to see these. I don't need to see anything. You've always taken Hope's side. Mom. Ella's voice cut through the tension. Look at the documents. Please. For Tommy's sake. Something in Ella's tone made Mom pause. She took the papers with obvious reluctance. As she read, her hands began to shake. This must be a mistake. Lucas wouldn't. He already has, I said quietly. And if we don't stop him, he's going to drag this whole family down with him. The sound of screeching tires outside made us all jump. Through the store's front window, I saw Lucas's Mercedes pull up sharply. He followed me, Ella whispered, clutching Tommy closer. Lucas burst through the door, his usual polished appearance disheveled. His eyes landed on the documents spread across the counter. You just couldn't leave it alone, could you? He snarled at me. Had to play detective, had to ruin everything. You ruined it yourself. Grandpa Henry stood, his voice stern. Now step back from my granddaughter. Lucas's phone buzzed. He checked it, and for a moment, raw fear flashed across his face. You don't understand, he said, his voice cracking. These people, they want their money by midnight. All of it. If I don't pay, then what? I challenged. More theft? More lies? Or were you planning to run and leave Ella and Tommy to deal with your mess? The look in his eyes told me everything. My perfect brother, the golden child, was finally out of options. And for the first time in our lives, I held all the cards. The lawyer's office felt too small for the weight of what I was about to do. Papers scattered across his desk, affidavits, bank records, and a restraining order application that made my stomach turn. Once we file these, Mr. Patterson said, tapping the documents, there's no going back. Your brother could face serious charges. My phone buzzed again, the 15th call from Mom in 2 hours. I silenced it without looking. What about my parents' money? We can freeze the accounts immediately, but he hesitated. There's something else you should see. He slid a document across the desk. A deed transfer, dated 3 days ago. My parents' house, their home of 30 years, now belonged to one of Lucas's shell companies. The room tilted sideways. They don't know, do they? Based on these signatures. He adjusted his glasses. I'm almost certain they're forged. A knock at the door made us both jump. Dad stood there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Hope. His voice cracked. We need to talk. Mr. Patterson gathered the papers. I'll give you two a moment. Once we were alone, Dad collapsed into the vacant chair. Your mother doesn't know I'm here. Did Lucas tell you about the house? His blank expression answered my question. Why are you here, Dad? He pulled out an old envelope, yellowed with age. I found this in your grandmother's things after she died. She made me promise to keep it safe. His hands shook as he opened it. It's about Lucas. Inside was a DNA test from 28 years ago. My heart stopped as I read the results. Lucas isn't yours? Your mother had an affair with Richard, my brother. The star athlete, the golden boy. He laughed bitterly. I've spent 28 years trying to love a son who reminded me every day of my brother's betrayal. Does Lucas know? No, but I think he sensed it somehow. The way I could never quite. He trailed off, staring at his hands. Why tell me now? Because I'm done protecting other people's lies. He straightened up. I want to sign whatever papers you need. It's time someone in this family stood up for what's right. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Ella. Lucas is gone. Took everything from our accounts. Police are here. Before I could respond, another text came through, this one from Lucas himself. You want to play hardball, little sister? Fine. Tell Mom and Dad to check their retirement accounts. All of them. My hands trembled as I pulled up the banking app. Every account, empty. He's cleaned them out, I whispered. Everything. Dad's face hardened. Call your lawyer back in. Wait. I stared at Lucas's text. Something felt off. He's trying to scare us into backing down. But why now? I dialed Nina. Remember that background check you ran on Lucas's new business partner? The one who doesn't exist? Yeah, why? I need you to check something else. Look for any recent property purchases under his name. I heard keyboard clicks, then a sharp intake of breath. Hope, he bought a plane ticket. Private charter. Tonight. Where to? Venezuela. No extradition treaty. Dad was already on his feet. I'm calling the police. No. I grabbed his arm. If we spook him now, he'll run immediately. We need to play this smart. I turned back to the lawyer's documents. How quickly can we freeze everything? With your father's signature? Within the hour. I met Dad's eyes. Are you sure about this? Mom will never forgive you. Your mother's forgiveness stopped mattering the moment she chose Lucas's lies over our family's future. He picked up the pen. Do it. As he signed the papers, I felt the weight of 24 years of being the overlooked child, the second best, the afterthought. But now, watching my father finally choose truth over comfort, I realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about justice. And sometimes justice means burning everything down to save what matters most. I pulled out my phone and dialed one last number. Ella? Get Tommy and pack a bag. I know where Lucas is going, and I need your help to stop him. The private airfield sprawled before us, dark except for the runway lights cutting through the fog. Ella clutched Tommy to her chest in the passenger seat while Nina worked her laptop in the back. His flight's scheduled for midnight, Nina said. We have 40 minutes. My phone lit up with Mom's face. After 3 days of silence, she was calling now. I answered on speaker. Where are you? Her voice cracked. Lucas just called. He's saying terrible things about your father, about some DNA test. Is it true? I kept my eyes on the airfield's entrance. About Uncle Richard? The silence stretched too long. We need to talk about this as a family. Like we talked about Lucas stealing your retirement, or forging your signatures. Or, he's your brother. No. The word felt like glass in my throat. Apparently he's not. A security guard approached our car. I flashed Ella's ID. She'd called ahead, playing the dutiful wife one last time. You don't understand, Mom continued. Lucas is in trouble. Real trouble. There are men looking for him. Dangerous people. I know about the gambling debts. No, it's worse. Her voice dropped. They're saying he laundered money for them. If he doesn't deliver tonight. Headlights swept across the parking lot. A black SUV pulled up near the private hangar. I have to go. I hung up as two men in dark suits emerged from the SUV. They didn't move like businessmen. Those aren't debt collectors, Nina whispered. Hope, what are we doing here? My phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. If you're here to stop me, don't. These people will kill me if I don't deliver. Take Tommy, Ella said suddenly, passing her son to Nina. I'm going to talk to him. Ella, wait. But she was already out of the car, walking toward the hangar. I followed, my heart hammering. Lucas stepped out of the shadows, looking haunted. The men in suits tensed. It's just my wife, Lucas called to them. And my sister. 10 minutes, one man growled. Then we leave with or without the money. Ella reached Lucas first. You were going to leave us? I was going to send for you. His eyes darted between us. Once I figured things out. You mean once you laundered their money? I stepped closer. That's what this is about, isn't it? Your new business partner, he's with them. I didn't have a choice. They threatened Tommy. Don't you dare, Ella hissed. Don't use our son to justify this. A car door slammed behind us. Dad emerged from the darkness, followed by Grandpa Henry. Hope texted me your location, Grandpa said, his voice steel. Did you really think we'd let you run? Lucas backed away. You don't understand. If I don't get on that plane, then what? Dad stepped forward. More lies? More theft? When does it end, Lucas? When I'm dead? Lucas laughed, a hollow sound. Is that what you want? Dad? Or should I even call you that? The suited men moved closer. Time's up. Wait. I pulled out my phone, opened a banking app. I can transfer the money. Right now. Everyone froze. Hope, don't, Dad warned. It's my trust fund. I met Lucas's eyes. The one Grandma left me. The one you couldn't touch. Why would you? Lucas started. Because I'm giving you a choice. My finger hovered over the transfer button. Take the money, get on that plane. But if you do, you never contact this family again. You never threaten Ella or Tommy. You disappear completely. Or stay. Face what you've done. Let us help you the right way, with lawyers, with protection. But no more lies. The suited men shifted impatiently. Lucas looked at Ella, at Tommy in the car, then at the plane waiting in the darkness. Time to choose, brother. I held up my phone. Who are you really running from? The fog thickened around us as Lucas stared at the screen, his face reflecting the harsh glow of numbers that could buy his freedom or seal his fate. The police station's fluorescent lights made everything look sickly and unreal. I sat in the hard plastic chair, watching through one-way glass as Lucas talked to the detectives. Mom paced behind me, while Dad and Grandpa Henry sat silently in the corner. He's going to prison, Mom whispered. My baby is going to prison, and it's your fault. I didn't respond. My trust fund was gone, transferred to an account that would help Lucas make restitution. The money that was supposed to be my fresh start, my escape, now belonged to his victims. Detective Martinez stepped out of the interrogation room. Your brother's naming names. Big ones. The kind that make people disappear. So what happens now? Dad asked. Witness protection, probably. For all of you. Mom collapsed into a chair. All of us. These people he worked with, they don't leave loose ends. Martinez's face hardened. They've already made threats against Tommy. Ella burst through the door, face streaked with tears. They took him. They took my baby. The room exploded into chaos. Martinez barked orders into his radio while Mom screamed and Dad tried to calm Ella down. When? I grabbed Ella's shoulders. Where? The babysitter. She said 2 men came with papers, said they were from Child Services. Ella's voice cracked. I called the agency. They never sent anyone. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Your brother's testimony for the kid. 1 hour. Come alone. I showed Martinez the text. He shook his head. We can't let you. It's my nephew. I stood up. And my mess to fix. Hope, Grandpa Henry caught my arm. This isn't your fault. But it was. I'd pushed Lucas into a corner, forced his hand. In my quest for justice, I'd put a child in danger. I have a plan. I looked at Martinez. But I need your help. 40 minutes later, I stood in the empty parking garage from the text, my heart thundering against my ribs. A black car pulled up, its windows tinted. A man stepped out, the same suit from the airfield. "Where's Lucas? Where's Tommy?" He nodded to the car. The back window lowered slightly, enough to see Tommy's sleeping face. "Sedated," the man said. "He'll wake up fine if you deliver. I need proof he's really okay. You're not calling the shots here." "No." I pulled out my phone. "Then I'll tell the FBI task force that's watching us right now to move in." "Your choice." The man's face tightened. He opened the car door, revealing Tommy strapped into a car seat. I stepped forward, checking his breathing. Steady. Relief flooded through me. "Happy? Now, where's Lucas?" I straightened up. "He's not coming." The man's gun appeared so fast I barely saw him move. "That wasn't the deal." "No, but this is." I held up my phone, showing him the live stream that had been running since I arrived. "Say hi to your followers." All 100,000 of them. His eyes widened as he saw the viewer count climbing. Amazing what a viral post about kidnapping can do. #SaveTommy is trending. I took another step forward. The whole city is watching. Police are probably already on their way. So here's my counteroffer. Leave Tommy, walk away, and this video doesn't include your face. You stupid bit. Police sirens wailed in the distance. The man's head snapped toward the sound. "Tick-tock," I said. He backed toward his car. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is. Because if anything happens to my family, any of them, this video shows exactly who to blame." He peeled out of the garage just as police cars swarmed the entrance. I grabbed Tommy from the car seat, holding him close as Martinez's team surrounded us. Targets fleeing north, Martinez barked into his radio. "You okay?" I nodded, watching Mom and Ella run toward us. But over their shoulders, I caught Lucas's eyes through the window of a police car. His face showed something I'd never seen before, respect. But it didn't matter anymore. I'd won, but the victory felt hollow. My family was fractured, possibly beyond repair. And somewhere in the city, dangerous men were plotting revenge. The war wasn't over. It was just changing battlefields. The safe house felt like a cage. 3 weeks of protective custody had worn us all down. Mom barely spoke, Dad buried himself in paperwork, and Ella spent hours staring out windows, Tommy clutched to her chest. Martinez arrived at sunset, his face grim. "We found them. The whole operation." But what?" He handed me a phone. "Lucas wants to talk to you. Only you." I stepped onto the back porch, away from the family's prying eyes. "What do you want?" "They're going to kill me." Lucas's voice shook. "The FBI raid missed some people. Important people. They think I'm the leak." "Aren't you?" "Not the original one." He paused. "Hope, I need to show you something. Something that changes everything." "No meetings," Martinez said. "It's about Dad. And Uncle Richard. And why Mom always protected me." His voice dropped. "There's so much you don't know." The line went dead. A text followed with an address, the old high school football field where Lucas had been king. Martinez caught me at the door. "You're not going." I showed him the text. "You can watch from a distance. But he'll only talk to me. It's a trap." "Probably." I grabbed my keys. "But I need to know the truth." The football field was dark except for one set of lights illuminating the 50-yard line. Lucas stood there, looking small against the empty bleachers. "I'm here," I called out. "Talk." He turned, holding a manila envelope. "Did you ever wonder why Mom couldn't let me fail? Why she pushed so hard? Because you were her golden boy. Because I was her shame." He pulled out old letters. Richard wasn't just Dad's brother. He was Mom's first love. The star athlete she was supposed to marry. Until his accident. Until she got pregnant with me. The accident happened after, when Richard found out she'd chosen Dad instead. My head spun. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Mom's not just protecting me. She's protecting herself. Her guilt, her choices." He laughed bitterly. "I was never supposed to be the good son. I was her penance." Movement in the shadows caught my eye. Men in dark clothes, moving closer. "You brought them here." "They followed me." His hands trembled. "I'm sorry, Hope. They said they'd kill Ella and Tommy if I didn't. bring the other leak? A new voice cut through the darkness. The man from the parking garage stepped into the light. We've been watching you, Hope. Your little live stream stunt cost us millions. More men emerged, forming a circle around us. Martinez and his team were nowhere in sight. You know what's funny? The man continued. Lucas here wasn't the leak. Your mother was. Lucas's head snapped up. What? Karen's been feeding information to the FBI for months, trying to save her precious son. He raised his gun. Too bad she was too late. You're lying, Lucas whispered. Ask her yourself. Oh, wait. The man smiled. You won't get the chance. Time slowed. I saw his finger tighten on the trigger. Saw Lucas step forward, maybe to run, maybe to fight. Then the night exploded with light and sound. FBI, don't move. Spotlights flooded the field. Agents rappelled from the bleachers. Martinez's voice boomed through a megaphone. I dove for Lucas as gunfire erupted. We hit the turf hard. Mom really was trying to save you, I gasped. All this time. Lucas gripped my arm, eyes wide. Hope More shots. A bullet kicked up grass near our heads. Shut up and crawl, I hissed, pulling him toward the sideline. As we reached safety behind a SWAT van, Lucas looked at me differently, not with his usual condescension or recent fear, but with something like awe. You knew they'd follow me, he said. You used me as bait. I learned from the best. I checked him for wounds. Ready to tell the whole truth now? He nodded slowly, watching as agents led the captured men away. Think Mom will ever forgive us? Maybe. I helped him up. But first, we have to forgive her. Grandpa Henry's bookstore smelled different now, fresh paint mixed with the familiar scent of old paper. I straightened the grand reopening banner while he arranged books in the newly restored shelves. Your grandmother would have loved this, he said, adjusting his glasses. Using your settlement money to save her store. Our store, I corrected. Besides, blood money should go to something good. The criminal case had ended with plea deals and asset seizures. The crime syndicate crumbled, its leaders scattered or imprisoned. Our family's share of the recovered funds came with strings attached to therapy, supervision, accountability. The bell chimed. Lucas stepped in, looking smaller in his court-mandated monitoring anklet. Need help with those boxes? I nodded toward the back room. As he passed, I caught Mom watching through the window, hesitating at the door. Dad stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder. They'll come in when they're ready, Grandpa Henry said softly. Lucas returned with a stack of books. Where do you want these? Fiction section. Under R for redemption. He almost smiled. Subtle. Learned from the best. I handed him another box. How's the counseling going? Better than prison. He shelved books carefully, methodically. Ella's thinking about letting me have supervised visits with Tommy. Good. Hope. He paused, a book half-shelved. I've been trying to figure out when it all went wrong. Not the money or the lies, but us. When did I stop being your brother and start being your enemy? Maybe when I stopped being your sister and became your competition. The bell chimed again. Mom finally stepped inside, Dad close behind. She looked around the restored store, tears in her eyes. Your grandmother's first edition collection, she whispered, touching the glass display case. You found them? In the attic, Grandpa Henry said. Where you hid them when the creditors came for Richard's debts. Mom's hand trembled. I was trying to protect everyone. By lying, Dad's voice was gentle but firm. Or by making Lucas into something he wasn't? Both. She turned to Lucas. I thought if I could make you perfect, it would erase my mistakes. Instead, I just repeated them. Lucas stepped toward her, then stopped, uncertain. I moved between them, taking Mom's hand and placing it in Lucas's. Perfect is overrated, I said. Try honest instead. The door chimed one last time. Nina walked in with Tommy, returning from their ice cream run. The toddler squealed at the sight of Lucas, but stayed by Nina's side, still cautious around his father. Hey, champ, Lucas said softly. Want to help me put some books away? Tommy looked at Nina, who nodded. He took a tentative step toward Lucas. I turned away, giving them space, and found Dad studying the old family photos on the wall, Mom and Uncle Richard as teenagers, Grandma and Grandpa on their wedding day, Lucas and me as kids. "I should have protected you both," he said. "From Karen's guilt, from Richard's shadow, from my own cowardice. We protect ourselves now." I straightened a crooked frame. "And maybe each other when we can." Speaking of protection, Grandpa Henry called from the counter. "These books won't shelve themselves." Family project? One by one, they moved toward the boxes, Mom and Dad, Lucas with Tommy trailing behind, Nina grabbing the lighter loads. We worked in comfortable silence, finding our rhythms, respecting our spaces. I watched them from the ladder as I stocked the top shelves. My family, broken and healing, learning to exist in the truth rather than perfect lies. The revenge I'd sought had transformed into something else, not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. The last book in my hand was Grandma's favorite, Worn and Dog-Eared. Inside the cover, her handwriting, "The truth may hurt, but lies leave scars." I placed it carefully on the shelf, between the past we couldn't change and the future we'd have to build. Some stories end with perfect resolution, with all wounds healed and all sins forgiven. This wasn't one of them, but maybe that made it more true.
Order some appetizers and roast turkey too. When I go to my eldest son Liam's house for Christmas, I'm treated like a maid. Originally, Liam, my husband's child, with his previous wife and I didn't get along well. Still, I tried hard to be recognized as a mother, but my efforts never reached Liam.
That idiot. Happy to be treated like a mom. Let's make her do all the housework. Ha!
Awesome! We can relax. I was shocked to hear Liam and his wife Ava laughing like that. What was all my effort for? I felt hopeless, but their attitude turned my sadness into anger. Why do I have to do housework for these people? Let's stop it already. I decided to stop and get my revenge. I'm Isabella, 81 years old, living alone. I married at 37. Before that, I was all about work and had no love life until my father introduced me to someone. My father was a wealthy man with many real estate properties. He introduced me to a kind man from the real estate company he used. He had been divorced, but I couldn't refuse because he was so kind. Concerned about my age and my parents' worries, I couldn't let the chance go. My husband was very friendly, and I was surprised he was divorced. Knowing he was raising 2 young sons as a single father, I wanted to help. Perhaps I was already attracted to him. We got along well and enjoyed being together. So we started dating. But with his kids, we couldn't go on many dates. Mostly, I'd cook and eat with them at his house.
Isabella, this is delicious. I want to eat it again.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. His second son, Noah, quickly took a liking to me. He was a charming boy, always smiling and talking. But Liam, frankly, didn't show me a good face. He barely responded when I talked to him. I didn't let Liam's coldness deter me and kept trying to talk to him. But our relationship didn't change. Then, at 38, I married his father. I tried to bond with the sons like a real mother. I'll go to your sports day with Dad and cheer for you. I had no children of my own, but did my best as a parent. Liam remained cold, but I hoped we'd become a real family someday. However, things with Liam didn't improve, but worsened. It started with his rebellious phase, his failure in a prestigious private high school entrance exam, and his rebelliousness led him to delinquency. He would stay out late and come home in the middle of the night. What are you doing? I'm worried. At least call me.
Shut up. Don't talk to me like you're my mom. You're not my parent.
Those words hurt me deeply. I thought I was doing my best, but my feelings weren't getting through. My husband and Noah supported me, but after that, Liam stopped talking to me. And then, Liam left home for college and never came back. Sometimes my husband or Noah would contact Liam, and I didn't worry much as long as he was doing fine. I thought his rebellious phase had ended, and that time would eventually heal our relationship. Then, both of my sons went on to college, jobs, and marriage, each starting their own lives. Their growth was so rapid, it was deeply moving. I was looking forward to enjoying life with just my husband. I thought so. But life wasn't so kind. My husband died in a car accident, hit by a drunk driver while returning from drinking with friends. I was stunned by this sudden loss. He was still so healthy. I wasn't ready to say goodbye. Why him? My emotions were overwhelming. Even after the funeral, I couldn't stop crying. Noah kindly spoke to me afterward.
Mom, if anything happens, rely on us. We're family.
Those words were my salvation. Liam seemed concerned too, helping with greetings and funeral arrangements. I was grateful to have met these children. They were the greatest gift from my husband. I was so grateful. Though I was widowed, I wasn't alone, which was a small comfort. But now I was living alone. The house felt too large without my husband. Maybe I should get a dog, I thought, when Liam came to visit. What's the matter? It's rare to see you. I hadn't contacted him in decades. My husband had phoned and met him, but the last time I saw Liam was at his wedding and then my husband's funeral. We hadn't been in touch at all, and it was our first time talking alone. I felt strangely nervous, my back straightening.
I have a favor to ask.
A favor?
I need to borrow some money.
What? Why?
I was in a hit-and-run accident and car repairs are expensive. This month's been tight.
That's terrible. How much do you need?
$20,000. But
I see. All right, I'll transfer it. Can you give me your account number?
Really? Are you sure?
Liam was very surprised. $20,000 isn't a small amount, but helping a son in trouble is a parent's duty, and I was happy that Liam finally relied on me. It's a parent's nature to want to help. We're family. You can always ask.
Thank you, Mom.
It was the first time Liam called me Mom. I was overjoyed, feeling finally recognized as family. I thought my long struggles had paid off, but I was mistaken. In December, Liam called.
Mom, would you like to come over for Christmas?
Really? Can I?
Of course. Dad's gone and you're alone, right? You should spend it at our place.
I was moved. The once rebellious Liam was now so considerate. I was deeply touched that Liam, who was troublesome since high school, had grown so much. I eagerly accepted the invitation and prepared for my visit. I decided to stay from the 22nd to the 26th. I asked several times if it was too long, but he cheerfully assured me it was fine, so I took Liam at his word. Liam and Ava lived in an apartment. My first visit to Liam's place revealed a 2-room home that felt cluttered. Though spacious, it felt cramped with too many things. So this is where you live?
It's the first time you've been here, Mom. It's been a while since you've seen Ava, right?
Isabella, it's been since the funeral. Ava was wearing exaggerated false eyelashes and heavy makeup. She looked much younger than her late 50s, more so than at the funeral.
Sorry to ask, but could you sleep in the living room? There's a sofa.
Oh, okay. I was surprised by this unexpected turn of events. The house was small, and there were no guest blankets. Staying here for days? I couldn't hide my confusion. However, Liam and Ava seemed completely unbothered. Then Liam said to me,
"We really wanted to eat your cooking, Isabella. Can you make something?"
"I've heard Isabella's cooking is delicious, and I wanted to try it too." "Of course. Can I use whatever's in the fridge?" "Go right ahead." I was flustered to be asked to cook, but also thrilled. I never thought Liam would find my cooking delicious. Noah often praised it, but Liam had never said anything like that. Feeling happy that he wanted to eat my food again, I started cooking in the kitchen. There wasn't much in the fridge, so I made a simple pasta dish. "Delicious, Isabella! This is amazing! Please cook again tomorrow."
"Yeah, this taste! It's nostalgic."
Liam and Ava ate happily. My mood was at its peak seeing their enjoyment. "Of course I'll cook tomorrow too. Is there anything in particular you want to eat?" "Chicken pot pie for tomorrow sounds good."
Chicken pot pie for dinner, right? How about pizza for lunch?
"Yeah, sounds great." No matter their age, to a parent they are always children. I thought to do anything for Liam and Ava, but that night I couldn't sleep due to the cold. feeling apprehensive about the days ahead. Waking up earlier than anyone, I started preparing breakfast, and Liam and Ava soon followed, lured by the smell.
Waking up to a ready breakfast is the best.
Thank you. They started their meal with smiles. Right, I'll go shopping today. It was cold last night. Can I buy a blanket?
Sure, but we don't have cash on hand to give you.
That's okay.
Just do whatever then.
Liam's indifferent response bothered me, but I decided to go shopping after cleaning up breakfast. At a nearby shopping center, I bought a blanket and groceries, and when I returned to the apartment, it was almost noon. Rushing home to prepare lunch, I heard Liam and Ava laughing. Man, I didn't expect it to go this smoothly.
Right? Let's get her to do other chores too. If we call her mom, she'll happily do it.
Awesome! I was stunned to hear Liam's words.
Such an idiot. Happy to be treated as a mother.
She's so eager. Cooking and shopping since morning. Isn't that too much?
If she's this soft for her son, I should have pretended to be a better son earlier.
Right? Why didn't we go to Isabella for money sooner?
She's not even working, just living off of Dad's inheritance, but there should be more inheritance left to squeeze out.
Fantastic! I was astonished by Liam and Ava's words. Thinking they saw me as a family was a complete misunderstanding. Liam was lying to get my husband's inheritance that I had received. Taking advantage of my generosity, they invited me for Christmas to make me do housework. I was shocked. I thought we had finally become a family. I was the only one excited. Stunned, I was approached by Liam, who was heading to the bathroom. Surprised to see me, his face stiffened for a moment, but he quickly smiled.
Mom, you're back. Must have been cold outside. I'm starving.
Oh, you're back. Looking forward to lunch. They spoke to me as if they hadn't been overheard, buttering me up. Still confused, I followed Liam's lead to the kitchen and began preparing the meal. They didn't help, just started eating as soon as I served the food.
Oh, this is delicious.
Thank you.
Mom, you've always been good at housework. Could you do the laundry and cleaning too? As you can see, Ava's not good at it.
Yeah, it's hard keeping up with housework when I work part-time every day. Indeed, the living room was cluttered with discarded clothes and empty plastic bottles. Far from sanitary. But now that you're off, you can do it, right? No, I really can't tidy up. Then let's do it together. Housework is easy once you get used to it. I have other things I want to do today.
Mom, please. We're family, right? I just want to relax for Christmas.
Liam spoke as if he were pleading, but I knew it was all an act. Why should I be the one to serve Liam and Ava? I couldn't accept it. Yet, if I refused now, it might create an unbridgeable gap between us. Maybe it's better if they're a bit selfish as family. I decided to think that way. All right, but I'd like you to help me a little. Yes.
Thank you, Mom.
In the end, they didn't help me at all with the housework. Instead, their behavior became increasingly arrogant. On Christmas Eve, Liam and Ava started drinking from noon, laughing stupidly while watching TV.
Mom, is dinner ready yet? You're slow.
Hey, did you wash this shirt yesterday? I wanted to wear it today.
Mom, bring me a beer.
I want some appetizers. They just lounged on the sofa, treating me like a servant. Why am I doing housework for these people? This isn't how families should treat each other. I had reached my limit and spoke to them. Why don't you stop drinking from noon and do some cleaning? I'm not the only one who should be doing housework. Drunk, Liam and Ava glared at me fiercely.
What? Shut up, you old hag. Don't talk back.
Right. Tell her more.
You should be grateful we're even acknowledging you as family. You blood unrelated old woman. Show your gratitude through housework.
It's better than being alone at home, right? Be thankful to us. Liam and Ava were completely mocking me. At that moment, my feelings for Liam disappeared. Why had I been so desperate to become family with such people? It's better to be alone than to be family with them. I have Noah. I don't want to live being looked down upon and used by these people. Unaware of my feelings, they continued to order me around.
Can we order steak for Christmas? For Christmas, it's got to be appetizers, right? Order some appetizers and a roast turkey too.
Please. Without even looking at me, they spoke. I had an idea for a little revenge. Understood. I ordered appetizers and a roast turkey for delivery. Delivery culture has become widespread. Even high-end restaurants do it now. It's convenient to eat high-end appetizers and roast turkey at home. I ordered the most expensive one, totaling $3,000. Of course, cash on delivery. Then, leaving a note saying, "I'm going back to my house," I returned to my own home. 5 hours later, back at my house, Liam called me as I was having a quiet dinner. Hello?
Hey, why did you just leave?
Seems he finally realized my revenge. I suppressed a smile and coughed to stay calm. Leave? I'm just going back to my own house. Why do I need permission?
Don't talk back. More importantly, why are the appetizers and roast turkey $3,000? How can we afford that?
It's from a nice place. I splurge for Christmas. Trying not to laugh, I spoke, and Liam and Ava's voices got louder. They must be red-faced and angry now.
We didn't ask you to order something that expensive.
Then you should have ordered it yourselves. I just ordered what I thought was good since you asked me to.
Why would you order something so expensive, you idiot? What's wrong with your sense of money, being so poor? Just come back and pay now.
No way. It's dangerous for an old person to walk alone at night. I avoid going out after dark.
What? Are you kidding? We're cutting ties with you, okay?
Yeah, isn't it sad to be alone on Christmas? We're kindly offering to spend it with you, and you waste our consideration. How rude! Liam and Ava threatened to cut ties with me, using the bond of family. I would have been shaken in the past, but now it didn't matter. I'd rather be alone than spend time with people who use family affection to treat me like a servant. It's fine with me. Let's cut ties then.
Are you sure? A poor person with only dad's inheritance. Don't come to us for money when you're in trouble. Even if you ask, we won't lend you any.
Just so you know, we're not going to take care of you either. Noah doesn't live nearby, right? So if you need care, there's no one to look after you, right? Poor thing, with no money and no one to care for you. Liam and Ava seemed to think they were in a position of advantage. They always misunderstood that I was poor. In old age, you can't work, and there are medical and care expenses. They thought threatening not to support me would make me comply. But it was irrelevant to me, because I had enough money to give my son $20,000 just like that. Feeling sorry for them, I decided to tell Liam the truth before cutting ties. You keep saying I'm poor, but I'm not struggling with money.
Huh? But you don't work, and you only have dad's inheritance, right?
No, I have an income of about $5,000 a month. Besides the inheritance.
What? $5,000 a month? How come?
My father was a wealthy man, An only child, I inherited his real estate. Sold some, but the remaining properties give me a steady rental income, so I'm set for my retirement.
Rental income? We didn't know that.
Well, of course, we hardly ever spoke, did we? True, Noah lives far away and can't take care of me in my old age, but with money, I can hire facilities or home health aides. I never intended to burden my sons with my care. I've saved enough to not be a burden in my old age. By the way, since we're cutting ties, I'll leave the inheritance only to Noah. I should write it in a will. Maybe it's time to start end-of-life planning.
Wait, hold on. It's unfair only Noah inherits. I'm your son too.
Huh? Aren't you a stranger now that we've cut ties? Who are you?
Don't mess around. How can you call your son a stranger? Heartless!
Huh? I thought the one who treated their mother like a servant and tried to get her inheritance was heartless.
How do you know that?
You thought I hadn't heard? Silly. Anyway, we're strangers now. Goodbye.
Wait, I can't pay the $3,000. Help me!
Liam kept shouting something, but I ignored it and hung up. Then I blocked his number. My revenge worked perfectly. Life isn't so sweet that you can dump chores on others and enjoy all the benefits. They should regret how they treated me a little. After that, I blocked Liam's number and got into a taxi. I knew Liam and Ava would soon come here. I couldn't have a peaceful Christmas if they did. I decided to go to a distant cottage and spend Christmas alone. 5 days later, when I returned home, Liam and Ava were standing there.
Oh, finally back!
Hey, what are you doing in front of someone's house? Are you some kind of stalker? Pretending to be a stranger as I entered my house, Liam knelt down in desperation.
We were wrong. Please, let's be a family again.
Right. Liam was really worried these 5 days without contact with Isabella. He came here every day. Ava grabbed my hand, pleading. They seemed desperate. The moment they knew I had money, their attitude changed so drastically. It was disgusting. What exactly does being family mean to you?
Family means helping each other out in times of trouble, right?
Sure, but I'm not in trouble. What if you get into trouble someday? It's comforting to have us around, Isabella. Then I'll contact you if I'm in trouble. As I tried to enter my house, they desperately tried to stop me.
Wait, you might not be in trouble, but we are.
In trouble? What kind of trouble?
We're out of money.
Really? That's tough. Work hard. Is that all? Shouldn't there be more of a reaction? Liam and Ava looked at me in surprise. They probably expected me to lend them money. I'm tired of hearing that kind of talk. It's cold, and I just wanted to go inside. That's all I was thinking about.
We have debts. The income from our jobs is so little.
I'm supporting the household with my part-time job too, but the debt isn't decreasing.
Please help us. Aren't you our mother?
Their words had no effect on me. If you have debts, why are you taking time off for Christmas?
Huh? Isn't it normal to take a break on Christmas?
Aren't wages usually higher during events like Christmas? And you think you can enjoy a leisurely Christmas break with debts? You probably thought you'd get money by saying family and son again, right?
That's not it.
Then earn it desperately. You're in your 50s, still of an age to earn. If you're desperate enough, you can repay your debts.
It's impossible. We can't just...
Stop being so dependent. It's embarrassing at over 50. As a family, I'm telling you, you're too reliant on others.
only thinking about taking the easy way out. Liam and Ava probably didn't expect to be lectured by me. They were wide-eyed in surprise. You can't go on like this. As a family, I care about you, so I'll be strict. I won't provide any financial support from now on. What? Earn your own money. Ignoring the speechless Liam and Ava, I entered my house. A parent isn't just there to spoil their children. As a parent, I believe it's my role to guide them on the right path, even if it means being trash. I've resolved not to indulge Liam just because he's family. Afterward, I received no contact from Liam. I heard from Noah that Liam had gotten into gambling and debts. After being rejected by me, he went to Noah for money, but was firmly turned down. I can't afford to give money to someone who just wants to gamble. I have children to take care of. Noah's words were completely reasonable. Eventually, Liam and Ava couldn't stop gambling, and their debts increased. Once, I passed by their house and saw a scary-looking person demanding money. In the end, my words didn't reach them. It's regrettable, but Liam's future is no longer my concern. I've moved from that house and haven't given Liam my new contact information, so there's no future involvement. Somewhere in my heart, I wonder if cutting ties with Liam was heartless, but it wasn't the wrong decision. If I had continued to indulge them under the guise of family, I would have been robbed of all my savings. I refuse just such a life.
Enjoying the best things. But what about love, trust, and respect? Weren't they the best things in life? When I became pregnant with Ivy, I thought it would bring us closer, but it only drove us further apart. Derek's presence became sporadic, his nights out longer, and then the ultimate betrayal, discovering his affair with Marissa. It was a text message that broke the news, a picture of them together, looking disgustingly happy. Derek's words, "I've found someone who truly understands me," echoed in my mind like a cruel joke. Now, as I sat in the quiet of my living room with the rain as my only companion, I realized the pattern in my life. Marissa had always been there, lurking in the background, ready to snatch away my happiness. She was like a shadow, a dark presence that I had failed to recognize. But this time, I was determined to step out of that shadow. Marissa had taken Alex, she had taken Derek, but she wouldn't take my dignity. I would fight back, not for revenge, but for closure. I picked up my phone, scrolling through contacts until I found Alex's number. It had been years since we last spoke, but it was time to clear the air. It was time to confront the past and reclaim my story. "Hello, Alex? It's Elaine. We need to talk." The day Derek and I got married was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, it marked the beginning of a series of events that would eventually lead to my greatest heartache. Our wedding was nothing short of extravagant. Derek, always one for grandeur, had insisted on a lavish celebration at one of Boston's most opulent hotels. The guest list was a who's who of the city's elite, along with friends and family. Among those friends was Marissa, reluctantly invited due to our intertwined social circles. I should have known something was amiss when Marissa arrived. Dressed in a flamboyant red gown that screamed for attention, she was the antithesis of a typical wedding guest. Throughout the evening, her laughter was too loud, her comments too pointed, her presence too imposing. As Derek took the stage, his charm on full display as he serenaded the crowd, I noticed Marissa inching closer to him. She had always craved the spotlight, and now she was basking in the reflected glow of my husband's performance. I brushed off the uneasy feeling, convincing myself it was just Marissa being Marissa. But after the wedding, things changed. Derek's behavior became increasingly erratic. Our fights escalated, often about his spending habits, or my so-called lack of ambition. "You just don't understand the finer things in life, Elaine," he would sneer, his words cutting deeper each time. During my pregnancy with Ivy, Derek's absences became more frequent. I was left alone, navigating the complexities of impending motherhood without the support of my partner. The man I had married, the man who had vowed to be by my side, was slipping away. Then came the night that shattered everything. I found text messages on Derek's phone, exchanges with Marissa filled with a familiarity that made my heart sink. The realization hit me like a freight train. Marissa and Derek were having an affair. Confronting Derek led to a heated argument, one that ended with him coldly stating, "Maybe Marissa understands me better than you ever did." His words were a knife to my heart. The betrayal by a husband was one thing, but by a friend, that was a wound of a different kind. I left Boston with Ivy, returning to the solace of my small Oregon hometown. Away from the city's glitz and Derek's betrayals, I found comfort in the familiarity of home. Yet, Marissa's shadow loomed over my newfound peace. As I lay in bed that night, replaying the events in my mind, a fierce determination took hold. Marissa had taken everything from me, my first love, my husband, my happiness. But she wouldn't take my future. It was time for Marissa to understand the consequences of her actions. I wouldn't let her get away with it this time. I would expose her for who she truly was, and in doing so, find my redemption. With that resolve, I drifted into a restless sleep, dreams of revenge quietly brewing in the back of my mind. Returning to Oregon with Ivy was like stepping into a different world, one far removed from the chaos and heartbreak of Boston. Here, in the quiet small-town life, I found a semblance of peace. But the tranquility was short-lived, shattered by Marissa's haunting presence in my life, even from afar. Marissa's message about her life with Derek was like a poison, seeping into my newfound happiness and tainting it with bitterness. She flaunted her life with Derek, not out of joy but out of spite, relishing the chance to twist the knife she had already driven deep into my heart. As I sat in my childhood bedroom, Ivy asleep in her crib, I scrolled through my social media feed, only to be ambushed by pictures of Marissa and Derek. There they were, looking disgustingly perfect together, their smiles a stark contrast to the pain they had caused. Marissa's latest post was a picture of them in a luxurious house, Derek's arm possessively wrapped around her. The caption read, "Living the dream with my soulmate." Each word felt like a deliberate jab, a reminder of what she had taken from me. Anger bubbled inside me, a fiery mix of betrayal and indignation. Marissa had always been a master manipulator, playing people like chess pieces for her amusement. But this time, her game had gone too far. She had stolen my husband, my sense of security, and tried to rob me of my dignity. I knew I couldn't let her win. Marissa thrived on attention and adoration, but what she feared most was exposure, the world seeing her for the manipulative, heartless person she was. It was time for her facade to crumble. With determination, I began to plan. I reached out to old friends, gathering bits and pieces of information about Marissa and Derek's life together. Each story painted a picture of a relationship built on lies and deceit. I also reconnected with people from our high school days, including those who knew about Marissa's betrayal with Alex. As I pieced together the narrative of her past manipulations, a pattern emerged, one that would be crucial in exposing her true nature. One evening, as I was poring over messages and emails, Ivy toddled into the room, her innocent eyes filled with curiosity. Seeing her, a wave of clarity washed over me. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about protecting my daughter from the toxic influence of people like Marissa. "Ivy," I said, lifting her into my lap, "Mommy is going to make sure no one ever hurts us again. We're going to be just fine, you and me." As Ivy nestled into my arms, her presence a comforting weight, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Marissa might have thought she had won, but the game was far from over. It was my move now, and I was playing for keeps. The autumn leaves in Oregon were turning a fiery red, much like the burning resolve within me. My plan to expose Marissa's true character was taking shape, but an unexpected encounter added a new dimension to my scheme. It was at a local community theater where fate played its hand. I had taken Ivy to see a children's play, hoping to distract myself from the brewing storm in my mind. As the audience applauded the final act, the director stepped onto the stage to thank everyone. My heart skipped a beat. It was Alex, my high school crush. After the play, I gathered my courage and approached him. "Alex, I'm Elaine." "We were in drama club together in high school," I said, introducing myself and Ivy. Recognition dawned on his face. "Elaine, wow, it's been ages. What brings you here?" I hesitated, then decided to be upfront. There was a misunderstanding back in high school that I never got to clear up. Over coffee, with Ivy playing quietly by my side, I told Alex everything, about the letter, Marissa's betrayal, and how it had affected me. To my surprise, Alex was genuinely sympathetic. I always wondered about that, he said, shaking his head. Marissa and I didn't last long. She always seemed off. As we talked, I realized how much I had misjudged Alex back then. He was not just the popular senior. He was kind, understanding, and, surprisingly, still single. The conversation shifted to life, parenthood, and our current pursuits. Alex's interest in theater had turned into a career, and he was now a respected director. He listened intently as I spoke about my love for sound design, a passion I had nurtured despite the chaos of my personal life. "That's impressive," he said. "You know, we're looking for someone to help with sound design for our next play. Would you be interested?" The offer took me by surprise. I'd have to think about it, with Ivy and everything. "Take your time," he said, smiling. "It would be great to work with you again, Elaine." As I left the coffee shop, a plan began to form in my mind. Working with Alex could be the perfect opportunity to rebuild my life, both professionally and personally. It was a chance for me to step out of Marissa's shadow and reclaim my story. But more than that, it was a chance for revenge. Alex, a link to Marissa's past, could be the key to exposing her. With him by my side, I could show the world Marissa's true colors. As I tucked Ivy into bed that night, I felt a sense of hope for the first time in a long while. Marissa had taken so much from me, but she hadn't broken me. I was still standing, and I was ready to fight back. "Mommy's got work to do," I whispered to Ivy as she drifted off to sleep. The stage was set, and it was time for Marissa's final act. The opportunity to confront Marissa presented itself unexpectedly. She had thrown a lavish party at her in Derek's house, a spectacle designed to flaunt their ostentatious lifestyle. I hesitated at first, but then realized it was the perfect stage to unveil Marissa's true self. Dressed modestly yet elegantly, I arrived with Ivy in tow. The house was abuzz with guests, laughter echoing off the walls. Marissa, draped in an extravagant dress, played the perfect hostess, her laughter ringing louder than the rest. "Elaine, how nice of you to come!" Marissa greeted me with a saccharine smile, her eyes scanning me dismissively. "And you brought Ivy too. How quaint." Ivy clung to my hand, sensing the tension. I smiled reassuringly at her and turned to face Marissa. "Thank you for inviting us, Marissa. Your home is quite something." "Oh, it is, isn't it?" Marissa gloated. "Derek has done so well for himself, not that I expected anything less." As the night progressed, I watched as Marissa flitted between guests, her mask of charm never slipping. But I knew her too well. Beneath the surface lurked a conniving, selfish woman who thrived on others' misfortunes. I found Derek standing alone on the balcony, his eyes distant. "Derek," I said, approaching him cautiously. He turned, surprise registering on his face. "Elaine, I didn't expect you to come." "We need to talk," I said firmly, "about Marissa." Derek's expression hardened. "What about her?" "It's time you knew the truth about the woman you left your family for," I said, my voice steady. "Marissa isn't who you think she is." I revealed everything. Her manipulations in high school, the letter incident with Alex, and her pattern of betrayals. Derek listened, his face growing pale with each word. I had no idea," he stammered, the facade of his perfect life crumbling. Just then Marissa appeared, her smile faltering as she saw us talking. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice laced with suspicion. "Derek, why don't you tell her?" I challenged, stepping back to watch the unraveling of Marissa's carefully constructed world. Derek faced Marissa, his newfound knowledge casting a shadow over their relationship. "Marissa, Elaine told me about your past, about everything." Marissa's eyes flashed with panic, then anger. "Elaine, you always were a jealous, spiteful—" "No, Marissa," I interrupted, my voice calm but firm. "I'm not the one who's spiteful. You are. You've built your life on lies and manipulation, but it ends tonight." The guests, drawn by the commotion, began to gather around us. Marissa's mask slipped, revealing the vindictive person I had always known. She tried to deny everything, but the truth was out. As the party descended into chaos with whispers and shocked expressions, I took Ivy's hand and left. Behind us, Marissa's world was falling apart, the consequences of her actions finally catching up to her. Ivy looked up at me, her eyes wide. "Mommy, are you okay?" I smiled, a genuine smile of relief. "Yes, sweetie, we're going to be just fine." The aftermath of Marissa's party was the talk of the town for weeks. The facade of her perfect life had crumbled, leaving her exposed and vulnerable. But as the dust settled, I found myself not in a state of triumph, but in quiet reflection. In the weeks that followed, I poured my energy into the sound design for the community theater, working alongside Alex. Our collaboration was a refreshing change, and through it, I rediscovered my passion for music and sound. Ivy thrived too, making friends at the theater and even taking a small role in an upcoming play. Her laughter and joy were a balm to my soul, a reminder of what truly mattered. Marissa, on the other hand, seemed to unravel further with each passing day. Her social media posts, once filled with bragging and luxury, became sporadic and tinged with desperation. Derek had left her, unable to reconcile the woman he loved with the truth of her manipulations. One chilly evening, as Ivy and I walked home from the theater, my phone rang. It was Marissa. Her voice, once so confident and mocking, was now tinged with desperation. "Elaine, I need your help," she pleaded. "Everyone has turned against me. I have nothing." Her words should have brought me satisfaction, but all I felt was a deep sense of pity. "Marissa, you brought this on yourself. You hurt a lot of people, including me." I know I did, but I'm alone now. I thought you might understand, being a single mom and all," she said, her voice cracking. I stopped walking, Ivy looking up at me with curious eyes. "Marissa, being a single mom doesn't make me weak. It makes me strong enough to know when to help and when to walk away. So you're just going to leave me like this?" Marissa's voice was a mix of anger and despair. "I'm not leaving you, Marissa. You left yourself a long time ago. I hope you find your way back," I said, and with that I ended the call. As Ivy and I continued our walk home, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had come full circle, from a victim of Marissa's games to a survivor standing on my own 2 feet. In the days that followed, I focused on my work and Ivy, building a life filled with love and purpose. Alex and I grew closer, bound by our shared passion for theater and our mutual respect for each other's talents. The final performance of the play was a success, and as I watched Ivy on stage, her face alight with happiness, I knew we had found our place. We had turned a page, leaving behind the pain and betrayal, ready to write our own story. Marissa's downfall was not my victory. My victory was in moving forward, in finding joy in the simple things, and in the love I shared with my daughter. As the curtain fell on the final act, I hugged Ivy tightly, her laughter ringing in my ears. "We did it, Mommy," she beamed. "Yes, we did," I whispered, my heart full. "We did it together."
The letter trembled in my hands, its crisp edges cutting into my fingertips. Full scholarship to Wharton Business School. The words blurred as tears welled up, but I blinked them back. I couldn't let anyone see me cry, not here in the store, not anywhere. Another day, another story. But first, I'd love to know where my listeners are from. Comment your location below. And hey, if you're enjoying these tales, consider becoming a permanent part of our family. Now, where were we? I'm Hannah, and this moment should have been the happiest of my life. Instead, I was hiding in the stockroom of Carter's General Store, surrounded by towers of inventory that had become my prison for the past year. Hannah, where are you? These boxes won't unpack themselves. My father's voice boomed through the store, making me jump. I shoved the letter into my back pocket, my heart pounding against my ribs. Coming. I grabbed a random box, pretending I'd been working all along. The scholarship letter burned against my skin, a secret that could either save me or destroy everything. My father stood at the register, arms crossed, watching as Connor, my younger brother, charmed another customer with his rehearsed smile. See how natural he is with people? Pride dripped from every word. Born for this business. I bit my tongue until I tasted copper. Connor was 15, barely passing his classes, but he was the golden child, the chosen heir. I set the box down harder than necessary, making my father's head snap toward me. Careful with the merchandise, he snapped. Those are crystal wine glasses, not your teenage attitude. The bell above the door chimed, and my grandmother Eleanor walked in, her silver hair gleaming in the fluorescent lights. My chest loosened slightly. She was the only one who saw me, really saw me. "Hannah, darling," she called out, ignoring my father's presence. "Ready for our Saturday business lesson?" Before I could answer, my father stepped between us. Actually, Mother, Hannah needs to finish inventory today. We're short-staffed. Richard, Eleanor's voice carried that steel edge I'd always admired. Our lessons are non-negotiable. You agreed. I watched their silent battle of wills, counting the seconds until one of them broke. My father looked away first. He always did. Fine, but be back in 2 hours. We have a shipment coming in. Eleanor linked her arm through mine, leading me toward the door. As we passed Connor, he didn't even look up from his phone. Why should he? He'd never had to fight for anything in his life. Now, Eleanor said once we were seated in her office above the store, "Tell me what's bothering you. Your aura's all wrong today." I pulled out the crumpled letter, smoothing it on her mahogany desk. Her eyes widened as she read, then filled with tears. "Oh, Hannah, this is wonderful. A full scholarship to Wharton? Your parents must be thrilled." My laugh came out bitter and hollow. "I haven't told them. What's the point? They'll just say no, like they always do. Nonsense. This is your future we're talking about. Your parents will understand. Like they understood when I wanted to take that business course last summer, or when I suggested updating our inventory system." I stood up, pacing the room. "They don't want me to succeed, Grandma. They want me to stay here, working for free, watching Connor inherit everything I've worked for." Eleanor's face hardened. "Then we'll make them understand. Tonight, I'll host a family dinner to celebrate." "No, please. 7 o'clock. No arguments." She reached for her phone. "It's time your parents remembered who built this business from nothing. And who really has the final say." I left her office with dread coiling in my stomach. Tonight would change everything, but not in the way my grandmother imagined. Because what none of them knew was that I discovered something else last week, something that would tear our family apart. The scholarship wasn't just my ticket to freedom anymore. It was my weapon. And tonight, I'd finally use it. Grandmother's dining room felt like a courtroom. The mahogany table stretched between us like a barrier, my parents on one side, Eleanor at the head, and me, trapped between worlds. The scholarship letter lay in the center, pristine white against dark wood. Absolutely not. My father's wine glass hit the table hard enough to slosh red onto the white tablecloth. "This isn't up for discussion." "Richard," Eleanor's voice cut through the tension. "Your daughter has earned a full scholarship to one of the most prestigious business schools in the country. This is an achievement worth celebrating." My mother's perfectly manicured nails drummed against her glass. "The store needs her here. Family comes first, Eleanor. You taught us that." "I taught you about ambition," Eleanor shot back. "About building something from nothing. That's exactly what Hannah wants to do." I stared at the growing wine stain on the tablecloth, watching it spread like the poison in our family. Connor's empty chair mocked us. He was at soccer practice, naturally excused from this family crisis. "Hannah knows her place," my father said, as if I weren't even there. "The store is her inheritance." "My inheritance?" The words burst out before I could stop them. "That's funny, considering how you parade Connor around as your successor. How you let him skip work whenever he wants while I'm trapped there 60 hours a week without pay." "Without pay?" Eleanor's head snapped toward my father. "Richard, you're not paying her?" My father's face reddened. "She's learning the business." "By stocking shelves and running the register?" I pushed back my chair, standing. "By watching Connor get praised for showing up once a week while I miss every school event, every social gathering. Everything that makes me feel human." "Sit down," my mother hissed. "You're embarrassing yourself." "No, Mother. I'm embarrassing you. There's a difference." I pulled out my phone, bringing up the photo I'd been saving. Just like there's a difference between managing the store and stealing from it. The room went deadly quiet. My father's face drained of color as I showed Eleanor the photo, a screenshot of doctored inventory records I'd discovered last week. "What is this?" Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper. "Ask them where the money from the Wilson account went," I said. "Or the Peterson supply order. Or the—" My father lunged across the table, grabbing for my phone. Wine glasses toppled. My mother screamed. But Eleanor was faster, snatching the phone from my hand before he could reach it. "Richard," she said, her voice trembling as she scrolled through the evidence. "What have you done?" "Nothing that concerns you, Mother. The store is mine now." "The store," Eleanor stood slowly, "belongs to me. Or have you forgotten who still holds the deed?" My mother burst into tears, right on cue. We had expenses. Connor's private coaching, the country club membership. "Stop." Eleanor's command froze us all. She turned to me, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "How long have you known?" "A week." I found the discrepancies while updating the inventory sheets. The ones Dad said were a waste of time. My father's chair scraped back. "This is ridiculous. Hannah's making up stories because she's jealous of her brother. Because she can't accept her role. Your daughter, Eleanor Cudden, has just shown more business acumen in 5 minutes than you have in 20 years. She'll make an excellent CEO after she graduates from Wharton." "What?" 3 voices spoke at once. "You're going to college, Hannah. And when you graduate, you'll take over as CEO of Carter's General Store." Eleanor's smile was razor sharp. "Your father and mother will work under you, at reduced salaries, until they've repaid every penny they've stolen. Unless, of course, they'd prefer I involve the authorities." My parents' faces showed everything: rage, fear, defeat. But I felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction. Just a hollow space where family should have been. "I'll see you at work tomorrow," I said, gathering my things. "Early shift, right? Don't worry, I'll do the inventory. I'm good at finding things people try to hide." I left them there with their spilled wine and shattered illusions. Tomorrow would bring consequences, but tonight I had won. And it felt nothing like victory. The smell of fresh coffee and warm pastries wrapped around me like a shield as I tied my apron behind the counter at Megan's Cafe. 3 weeks of secret morning shifts had taught me more about business than years at my family store. Here, my opinions mattered. My ideas were heard. And most importantly, I got paid. "You're getting good at those lattes," Megan said, watching me create a perfect leaf pattern in the foam. "Much better than serving hardware and paint samples, right?" I froze, nearly spilling the drink. "How did you?" "Small town, Hannah. Your family store is practically an institution." She smiled, but her eyes were serious. "Don't worry, your secret's safe with me. Though I'm curious why you're hiding this from them." The bell above the door chimed before I could answer. My blood turned to ice as Connor walked in, his soccer team in tow. Our eyes met. His widened in recognition, then narrowed with calculation. In that moment, my 15-year-old brother looked exactly like our father. "Well," he drawled, approaching the counter. "This is interesting. What can I get you?" I kept my voice professional, praying he'd play along. "Does Dad know his perfect daughter is moonlighting at a coffee shop?" His teammates snickered. I felt Megan tense beside me. "Connor, relax," he cut me off, pulling out his phone. "I'm not going to tell him. Yet. But I might need some favors." My hands clenched around the counter. "That's called blackmail. That's called family." He mimicked our father's tone perfectly. "Speaking of which, Dad's looking for last month's inventory records. The ones you're supposedly updating. The ones that proved their theft. I'd hidden them in Eleanor's office, but if my father was looking for them..." "I have to go," I told Megan, already untying my apron. "Family emergency." "Family emergency or family prison?" Connor called after me. "Better hurry, sis. Dad's in quite a mood today." I ran the 6 blocks to the store, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through the front windows, I could see my father in Eleanor's office, rifling through her desk. The bell betrayed my entrance. He looked up, his face darkening when he saw me. "Where are they?" He descended the stairs 2 at a time. "The inventory records." "Where did you hide them?" "I don't know what you're talking about." But my voice shook, giving me away. He grabbed my arm, pulling me into the stockroom. "You think you're clever, don't you? Playing detective, running to your grandmother with lies." "They're not lies." I yanked free. "I saw the numbers. I saw what you and Mom did with Connor's college fund, with the store's profits." "You saw nothing." His fist slammed into a shelf, sending paint cans crashing. "You're a child playing at business. Your brother understands loyalty. Family. You? You're just like your grandmother, too ambitious for your own good. Is that why you're stealing from her? The words hung between us like poison. His face transformed, becoming someone I didn't recognize. Listen carefully, he said, his voice deadly quiet. You will find those records and destroy them. You will apologize to your mother for upsetting her. And you will never, never speak of this again. Or I'll make sure Eleanor learns about your little coffee shop job. How you've been lying to everyone, abandoning your duties here. Connor told you. Connor understands hierarchy, position, something you never learned. He straightened his tie, becoming the polished store manager again. You have until closing to make this right. Don't disappoint me again. He left me there, surrounded by spilled paint and shattered illusions. My phone buzzed, a text from Connor. Sorry, sis. But family comes first. I sank to the floor, paint seeping into my jeans. The records were safe in Eleanor's home office, not here. But for how long? And what would happen when my father realized that? My phone buzzed again. Megan, whatever's happening, you have options. Come back when you can. We'll figure it out. Options. I stared at the message, an idea forming. My parents thought they had me trapped, but they'd forgotten one thing. I was Eleanor Carter's granddaughter. And she hadn't built an empire by playing nice. I stood up, paint dripping from my clothes like war paint. Time to show them what real family loyalty looked like. The cafe's morning rush kept me too busy to think, which was exactly what I needed. 2 weeks had passed since Connor's betrayal, and I'd managed to stay one step ahead of my father's search for the evidence. But my time was running out. Your grandmother's here again, Megan whispered as she passed behind me. Third time this week. Eleanor sat in her usual corner booth, pretending to read the newspaper while watching me work. She hadn't mentioned my secret job, but her presence spoke volumes. I brought her usual Earl Grey, setting it down carefully. Is this a coincidence or an intervention? Can't a grandmother enjoy quality tea? She folded her paper, fixing me with that penetrating stare. Though I must say, your latte art is impressive. Almost as impressive as your ability to be in 2 places at once. My hands trembled slightly. I can explain. No need. She pulled out a manila envelope. I think these explain enough. Inside were copies of every doctored record I'd found, plus dozens more going back years. My father's theft ran deeper than I'd imagined. How did you? I built this business, Hannah. Did you really think I wouldn't have my own copies? She sipped her tea. The question is, why didn't you come to me directly? Before I could answer, Jason burst through the door, his face pale. Hannah, you need to see this. He thrust his phone at me. On screen was our local news website. Carter's General Store announces major expansion. Teenage son to head new location. There's more, Jason said quietly. Check the business filing. I scrolled down, my vision blurring as I read. My father had created a new corporation, transferring store assets into Connor's name. He was systematically draining the original business, Eleanor's business, into a new entity she couldn't touch. Well, Eleanor's voice cut through my shock. It seems your father's gotten creative with his theft. I have to stop this. I started untying my apron, but Eleanor's hand caught mine. No, you need to think strategically. Richard's making his move because he's desperate. He knows we have evidence of his earlier fraud. This is his attempt to secure Connor's future before it all falls apart. At your expense, I said. And mine. Actually, Megan joined our huddle, holding up her phone at everyone's expense. Your father just posted the store's new work schedule. You're down for 60 hours next week, all closing shifts. Unpaid, I assume. He's trying to force me out, I realized. Make it impossible for me to keep working here. Or study for finals, Jason added. Or graduate. Eleanor's face hardened. He's not just stealing money anymore. He's stealing your future. What do I do? The words came out smaller than I intended. You fight, Megan said firmly. Starting with this. She handed me an envelope. I was saving it for the right moment. Inside was a job offer, assistant manager position at the cafe, full-time, with benefits and tuition assistance for business classes at the local college. I can't accept this, I whispered. The store. "We'll survive without you," Eleanor cut in. "The question is, will you survive with it?" My phone buzzed. A text from Connor. "Dad's looking for you. He knows about the cafe. Better come home now or things get worse." "Things are already worse," I said, showing them the message. "They've been for a long time." Eleanor stood, gathering her things. "Then perhaps it's time to make them better. The question is, are you ready for what that means?" I looked around, at Megan's encouraging smile, Jason's worried face, the cafe that had become more home than my house ever was. Then at Eleanor, who'd built an empire from nothing and was watching it be stolen piece by piece. "Yes," I said, my voice stronger. "I'm ready." "Good." Eleanor's smile was sharp as broken glass. "Because your father isn't the only one who can play the legal system. Shall we show him how it's really done?" I took off my apron for the last time, folding it carefully. The war for Carter's General Store was about to begin, and this time I was choosing my side. The graduation gown felt like armor as I stood in front of my bedroom mirror. Downstairs, I could hear my parents hosting their annual graduation party, not for me, but for the family's social circle. My own celebration would come later, they'd said, after I'd earned it through summer work at the store. My phone buzzed with Eleanor's text, "Everything's ready. Are you sure about this?" Before I could respond, Connor appeared in my doorway. "Dad wants you downstairs." "Now? Since when are you his messenger?" "Since he found out about your secret bank account." Connor's face was uncharacteristically serious. "Hannah, he's really angry. Maybe you should just..." "Just what? Give up? Let him take everything." I pulled out my desk drawer, grabbing the USB drive containing copies of all the evidence. "Like you did?" "I didn't have a choice." "We always have a choice, Connor. You just made the easy one." Downstairs, the party chatter died as I descended. My father stood at the bottom of the stairs, holding my laptop, the one I'd bought with my cafe earnings. "Care to explain this?" He turned the screen toward me, showing my bank statements. "Or how about these?" He held up printed emails between Eleanor and her lawyers. My mother hurried the last guests out, her perfect hostess smile cracking. "Richard, perhaps we should discuss this privately." "No." His voice cut through the room. "I want witnesses for this. I want everyone to see exactly what kind of daughter we raised." I reached the bottom step, acutely aware of Connor watching from above, of Jason hovering near the front door, ready with his car if I needed escape. "You want witnesses?" I kept my voice steady. "Fine. Let's talk about the Wilson account. The Peterson orders. The new corporation you created in Connor's name." The color drained from his face. "You ungrateful. Or maybe we should discuss this." I pulled out my phone, playing the recording I'd made last week, his voice clearly discussing how to hide assets from Eleanor's auditors. My mother lunged for the phone, but I stepped back. "Don't bother. It's already backed up. Everything is." "You're bluffing," my father said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. "Am I? Check your email." Eleanor's lawyers should have sent the preliminary audit findings by now. He grabbed his phone, scrolling frantically. With each swipe, his face grew darker. "You're done here," he finally said, his voice deadly quiet. "Pack your things. You have 30 minutes. Richard." My mother's perfect mask cracked completely. "You can't. She's been working with Mother behind our backs, Linda. Planning to destroy everything we've built." "Everything you stole, you mean?" The words felt like fire leaving my mouth. "Everything you took from Eleanor, from the store, from me. From you." He laughed, harsh and hollow. "What could I possibly have taken from you?" "My childhood. My choices. My future." I pulled out my graduation cords, valedictorian, honor society, business club president. "Everything I earned while you were grooming Connor to steal Eleanor's legacy." Connor's sharp intake of breath from the stairs was the only sound in the room. "You have 29 minutes left," my father said. "Use them wisely." I turned to the stairs, but Connor blocked my path. "Wait," he said, his voice small. "Is it true? About the new corporation? Ask him yourself." I pushed past him, heading to my room. "Ask him what he's been teaching you about family loyalty." 28 minutes later, I stood on the front lawn with 2 suitcases and my laptop. Jason's car idled at the curb, and Eleanor waited in her Mercedes behind him. "Hannah," Connor's voice made me turn. He stood in the doorway, holding something. "You forgot this." He tossed me the USB drive I'd left on my desk, the one containing all the evidence. "I didn't forget it," I said. "I left it for you. Time to make your choice, little brother." I got into Eleanor's car without looking back. In the rearview mirror, I watched Connor stare at the drive in his hand, our father's shadow falling across him from inside. Sometimes burning bridges lights the way forward. I just hoped Connor would see the light before it was too late. Eleanor's study felt like a war room, with papers spread across her antique desk and lawyers' business cards scattered like ammunition. 3 days after being thrown out, I sat across from her, watching as she reviewed the final audit results. $500,000. She set down the report, her hands trembling slightly. My own son stole $500,000. A knock at the door made us both jump. Connor stood there, pale and determined. I found something else. He placed a laptop on the desk, our father's personal computer. The password was my birthday. His laugh was hollow. Guess he never thought I'd use it against him. Eleanor opened a folder labeled New Ventures. Her sharp intake of breath drew me closer. "He's selling the store," I whispered, scanning the documents. "He's already found a buyer." "Not just selling it," Connor's voice cracked. "Liquidating it. Everything Grandma built, he's breaking it apart for quick cash. The papers are ready to sign tomorrow." My phone buzzed. A text from Jason. "Your parents just went into the store. They're clearing out the safe." Now, Eleanor stood, suddenly every inch the business titan who'd built an empire. "We move now." 20 minutes later, we pulled into the store's parking lot. My parents' car sat alone under the security light, casting long shadows. "Remember," Eleanor said, "let me do the talking." "Hannah, you." The store's front window exploded outward, showering glass across the pavement. Through the broken window, I saw flames licking up the wooden shelves. "No!" Eleanor's scream pierced the night as we ran toward the building. Inside, smoke filled the air, and through it, I saw my father feeding files into the fire, my mother frantically emptying the safe. "Stop." My voice was lost in the crackling flames. "You're destroying everything." It was already destroyed. My father turned, his face illuminated by the fire. "The moment you chose her over family. This is my family's legacy." Eleanor stepped forward, but the flames blocked her path. "Everything I built." "You built nothing." He threw another stack of papers into the fire. "I kept this business running while you played mentor to her. I made the hard choices. I deserved." "You deserved prison." Connor's voice cut through the smoke. He held up his phone, recording everything. "And now you'll get it." Sirens wailed in the distance. My mother grabbed her purse, stumbling toward the back door. "Richard, we have to go." "It's over, Dad," I said, watching our family's history burn. "Just stop." For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, regret, maybe, or recognition. Then he smiled, cold and final. "You want to run this business so badly? Try rebuilding it from ashes." He threw the last files into the flames and ran, leaving us to watch everything burn. The firefighters arrived minutes later, but it was too late. The store, Eleanor's legacy, my inheritance, our family's foundation, was gone. Hours later, we sat in Eleanor's kitchen, covered in soot and defeat. My parents had vanished, taking whatever money they'd managed to grab. The police were looking, but we all knew they were long gone. "The insurance won't cover it," Eleanor said quietly. "Richard canceled the policy last month." Connor stared at his phone, still displaying the video of our father's confession. "At least we can prove it was arson." "And then what?" I looked at my hands, black with ash. "The store is gone. The inventory, the records, everything." "Not everything." Eleanor pulled out a singed folder, the store's original business plan, written in her own hand decades ago. "We still have this. And we have something your father never understood." "What's that?" "Each other." She spread the burned papers on the table. "The question is, are you ready to rebuild?" Not for revenge anymore, but for ourselves. I touched the charred edge of her business plan, feeling the weight of legacy and loss. The store had been my prison, then my battleground. Now it was ashes. But maybe, just maybe, ashes were the perfect foundation for something new. Where do we start? Eleanor smiled, and for the first time that night, hope flickered stronger than the flames had. We start with the truth. All of it. Together. The police found my parents in a motel 3 states away. They'd managed to grab nearly $50,000 in cash before torching the store. But their escape plan ended at a casino where my father lost most of it in a desperate bid to win enough for a fresh start. Now, 2 weeks later, I stood in the courthouse hallway, watching them being led in for arraignment. Connor's video evidence and Eleanor's financial records had built an airtight case. Ready? Eleanor squeezed my hand. Connor stood on my other side, his usual cockiness replaced by something harder, more determined. My father's eyes locked onto us as they passed. Still playing happy family? His smile was razor sharp. Wait until you see what rebuilding that store really costs. Richard. My mother's mascara was perfect, even in handcuffs. Don't what? Tell them about the second set of books? The ones Eleanor's father kept. He laughed as the bailiff pulled him along. Ask her where the store's startup money really came from. Eleanor's hand tightened on mine. Connor stepped forward, but I held him back. He's lying, Eleanor said, but her voice shook. He's trying to. To what? I turned to face her. What's he talking about? Before she could answer, the prosecutor approached. They're offering a deal. Full restitution, minimal jail time, if they reveal everything about the store's financial history. All of it. Going back to the beginning. Eleanor's face went ash-white. No. Grandma? Connor's voice cracked. What are you telling us? She pulled us into an empty conference room, closing the door. Your grandfather. He wasn't always careful about where he got his loans. When I took over, I cleaned everything up, made it legitimate. But the original money was dirty. The pieces clicked into place. Dad knew. That's why he felt entitled to steal. I built something good from something broken. Eleanor's composure cracked. Everything I taught you, Hannah, about business, about integrity, it wasn't lies. It was redemption. A knock at the door made us jump. The prosecutor again. They're ready to talk. All of you should hear this. In the small interview room, my parents sat across from us, still in handcuffs. My father's smile had grown wider. Tell them, Mother. Or shall I? Eleanor stood. I'll tell them myself. She faced Connor and me. Yes, your grandfather borrowed money from criminals. Yes, I knew when I took over. But everything since then, every dollar, every decision, has been clean. I spent 30 years making it right. By hiding the truth? My father's laugh was bitter. By pretending you were better than everyone else? I took what I deserved. You took from your children. Eleanor's voice cracked like a whip. From your family. Family? My mother finally spoke. You want to talk about family? Tell them about Richard's brother. The one who disappeared after threatening to expose everything. The room went silent. Connor grabbed my hand under the table. My uncle, I whispered. The one you said died in an accident? Eleanor sank into her chair. He was going to destroy everything I'd built. The legitimate business, the community trust, your futures. I didn't. I never meant. What did you do? Connor's voice was barely audible. Nothing. Eleanor's eyes were desperate. He took the money I offered and disappeared. I haven't heard from him since. My father stood suddenly, making his chains rattle. There it is. The great Eleanor Carter's true legacy. Buying silence, burying secrets, all while preaching about integrity. I looked around the room, at my grandmother's guilt, my parents' spite, Connor's confusion. Everything I thought I knew about right and wrong, about justice and revenge, blurred. Stop. My voice cut through the tension. All of you. This ends now. I pulled out my phone, showing them the screen. A video call connected, revealing a familiar yet strange face. Hello, Richard. My uncle smiled sadly. Eleanor. It's been a long time. The truth about legacy, I realized, watching their faces crumble, isn't what we inherit. It's what we choose to do with it. And I was done letting the past poison our future. The new Carter's General Store rose from the ashes with clean lines and fresh paint, but I kept one charred beam exposed near the entrance. Some scars deserve to be seen. Ready. Connor adjusted his name tag, assistant manager glinting under the morning sun. Through the windows, I could see Eleanor arranging the last display, her silver hair catching the light. Almost. I pulled an envelope from my desk. Inside was my acceptance letter to Wharton's Weekend Master of Business Administration program, not quite the full scholarship from before, but a different kind of victory. Beside it lay the plea agreement my parents had signed yesterday, trading full restitution for reduced sentences. The bell chimed. Uncle David walked in, looking more like family now than when he'd been just a ghost story. The suppliers are all on board. Clean contracts, transparent terms. And the old debts? I had to ask, though I already knew. Paid in full. He smiled sadly. Your grandmother made things right, Hannah. In her own way. Eleanor joined us, carrying a leather-bound ledger I'd never seen before. I found this in the safe deposit box. My father's original business plan. She traced the worn cover. Along with this, she handed me a yellowed envelope, my name written in her elegant script. The date showed it was written 17 years ago, the day I was born. I always knew, she said softly. Even then, I saw something in you. The strength to break cycles, to build something better. I opened the letter, reading words written by a younger Eleanor to a baby she hoped would understand. To my granddaughter, legacy isn't what we leave behind. It's what we choose to carry forward. Choose wisely. The morning light streamed through windows that had once been bars, illuminating the store we'd rebuilt together. Not just the building, but the foundation beneath it. Trust, truth, redemption. First customers in 10 minutes, Connor announced, flipping the sign to open. Think we're ready? I looked around, at Uncle David arranging local artisans' work where stolen inventory once sat. At Eleanor teaching Connor the proper way to balance a till, at the community bulletin board advertising local businesses, including Megan's Cafe. The security cameras my father had disabled now worked perfectly. The books were digitized, transparent, open to monthly audits. Every employee, family or not, earned fair wages and respect. Wait. Eleanor pulled out an old brass key. One last thing. She led us to the register, unlocking a drawer I'd never seen opened. Inside lay a single coin, the first dollar she'd ever earned. I think she pressed it into my palm. This belongs to you now. The metal was warm, weighted with history both dark and light. I could lock it away, let it become another family secret. Or I walked to the front window and placed it on display, right next to the charred beam. A reminder that legacy isn't just what we inherit, but what we choose to transform. The bell chimed again. Jason walked in, carrying coffee for everyone, a morning tradition he'd started when he helped us rebuild. Look who I found outside. Behind him stood a young girl, maybe 16, clutching a resume. I heard you were hiring? My parents want me to work for their company, but I was hoping. I recognized that look, the desperate need to write your own story. Connor did too, judging by his small nod. Come on in, I said, gesturing to my office. Let's talk about your future. Eleanor's letter crinkled in my pocket as I walked, its final words echoing. Choose wisely. We all had. And those choices had built something stronger than revenge, more lasting than justice. They'd built a future worth inheriting. The store's old sign still hung outside, but below it we'd added new words. Carter's General Store, building legacy, one choice at a time. It wasn't perfect. But then again, the best stories never are.